Anand, we are live now. You can get started.
Thanks, Garima and Jessica. Hello, and a warm welcome to on and all. We hope you're keeping safe during these trying times because of the pandemic. We really appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy schedules and join us today for this session. My name is Anand Dutta. I take care of the global alliances for cybersecurity at Tech Mahindra, and I would be your host for the event this evening. Today, we would be discussing on a very interesting and a thought-provoking topic. The topic is Modernize Your Security with Open Multi-Cloud Platform. And to discuss this topic today, we have an elite panel of industry experts with us here from Tech Mahindra, as well as our global strategic partner, IBM. So I'm very delighted to introduce the speakers for today's session. First off is Mr. Jerry Frady. Jerry joins us from IBM. He is currently leading the technical sales for America region to solve the ever-evolving challenges of information security. Mr. Frady began his career in networking, and after 10 years of building large networks and he transitioned to the information transition. The last 5 years, he has been working closely with analytics and cloud technologies. Mr. Frady is experienced with networking, risk management, intrusion detection and prevention, application security, IAMs, SIEM, security operations, analytics, and various other technologies. That's quite a resume, Jerry. Thanks for joining us. And also with us is Mr. Ryan Parthasarathy. He's a TechM business head for cybersecurity for North America. He's a global strategic and visionary senior IT leader with broad technology on core competencies. He has been successfully executing multiple business transformation and driving value by leveraging technologies like cloud, applications, and security to meet market demands and grow revenues and expand profit margins for the organizations. And also we have Mr. Affan Syed. Affan, he's a TechM cybersecurity leader for GE oil and gas verticals for North America. He's a leader market maker for us. He has played several global roles with the business units as a business unit CISO, delivery head, security competency leader and security consultant previously with other organizations. So thank you again, leaders, for joining the call today. Welcome again. So before I start the session today and get into this lovely topic that we have picked up, so I would like to tell the audience to keep your Q&A. We would have a Q&A session at the end, so keep your questions ready with you and put them on the Q&A chat window whenever you feel like, and we would take those questions at this end of the call for the last 10 minutes, where we can reach out to the panel today and get your questions answered. So let's start the discussion today. So welcome again, Jerry, as our guest speaker from IBM today. Please share your point of view on IBM Cloud Pak for security, right? So Jerry, we have seen IBM has come out with Cloud Pak for data, network automation and security. So can you please tell us what is the key idea and how CP4S, Cloud Pak for security, is trying to address the pain points to modernize and unify the cybersecurity landscape? Over to you, Jerry.
Anand, and thank you for the warm introduction. That was great. And thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for our partners at the good people at Tech Mahindra for hosting this. We're happy to be here. So when we think about the current environment, right, most every company that we talk to these days is undergoing some level of digital transformation. They're refactoring their applications to become more modular, containerized, and cloud native. They're also shifting to cloud and multiple clouds and software as a services-based solutions in order to move faster and to scale. They're also treating their data as a shared resource. And when I say shared resource, that means between departments, partners, and communities. And the reason they're doing this is so they can take advantage of advanced analytics and artificial intelligence and those sorts of technologies. They're also embracing hybrid cloud so that they can scale and match the right workload to the right environment at the right time. So for organizations that have seasonal based increases, they can use the elasticity of hybrid cloud environments by being able to scale their compute and their processing from potentially on-prem to a cloud or from one public cloud to another cloud. The problem is that we need security, and security needs to be baked in and not bolted on, as we always like to say. So traditional security, though, is having a really hard time keeping pace with this. Security leaders are stressed with too much to do. They have too many tools. Studies that you see out there will indicate that a typical enterprise has over 60 security tools. And one thing that the security industry is really good at, and we have been for years, is whenever there's a new threat or a new type of a variant, we develop a product or multiple products to kind of take care of that. And that's leading to too much complexity, right? So even if all of these vendors have APIs, just managing, APIs used to be important, right? You wanted to make sure that a vendor had a good API. But even if all of these vendors have good APIs, it's very difficult to scale, and it creates a lot of complexity as you're dealing with all of that. You also have industry frameworks, you have processes, you have compliance mandates, and all of this leads to too many alerts. And oh, by the way, we don't have enough skilled staff to deal with it because there is a shortage of skilled cybersecurity personnel. And to make that worse, traditional security programs are still operating in silos. So you have your identity and access management people, you have your data security people. They're all using different tools and they're in silos. In a lot of cases, those silos are connected, but that still lacks visibility and context. So organizations, we feel, need to transform their security program just like they're transforming their business. So modern security requires a unified approach. If we continue to add more of these point solutions, again, even if they integrate, it traps that data in silos, especially with environments increasingly spread over multiple on-premise and cloud locations. A recent study that IBM did indicated that a typical enterprise is utilizing 3 or more public clouds. And that's not SaaS services, so that doesn't include Office 365 or any of those SaaS type environments. That's 3 major cloud providers where they're using compute and or storage. It leads to gap in visibility across the threats and the risks, increased cost to integrate these tools and migrate the data, and again, increased complexity. So what we need is a common control plane where we can connect openly to data and workflows. What we really need is a platform, and this would enable us to share data, analytics, and common services that can break down the silos between teams and across tools like threat management, data security, IAM, and all of the other silos that you have. But we also need to have an open ecosystem so we can have flexibility and we can have interoperability. So this is why we've developed IBM Cloud Pak for Security. And Cloud Pak for Security is not a product per se. It is an architecture and a platform, a delivery vehicle, if you will, for all of IBM's security products. We have a number of apps that we call them on the platform currently, and we're adding more and more apps. We're also moving our existing security estate. So QRadar, Resilient, all of our existing security tools, we're also moving over to this architecture, to this platform-based approach. So it's a unified approach. It enables you to quickly integrate your existing security tools. You can generate deeper insights into threats. You can orchestrate actions and automate responses. And one of the key things is it's all while leaving your data where it is. And we'll get into that a little bit more in depth soon. When we think about the architecture, again, I had mentioned that we feel you need to modernize your security just as you're modernizing and transforming your business. So this is built on an open, integrated, hybrid multi-cloud platform. It's called OpenShift by Red Hat, and OpenShift is an enterprise-ready Kubernetes platform that manages cloud, hybrid cloud, and multi-cloud deployments. So why is that important? Well, it allows you to run anywhere. So you can run on-premise, you can run in a multi-cloud environment or a hybrid cloud environment. And this is what gives you that elasticity. So you can easily move between clouds and from on-premise to cloud. It's also based on containers and microservices, and not to get too deep, but containers are nice because it includes everything you need. No longer do you have to buy the operating system, then load all of the dependencies, all the required software before you can even run an application. The container includes the entire runtime environment, including the application, all the dependencies, libraries, codes, everything, all in one nice package. It also utilizes microservices, which allows you to have more uptime. So you can do things like patching with no downtime, which is nice. But overall, it gives you the portability, reliability, the scale, elasticity, all of those things. Then on top of that, we have our platform services. Essentially, those are all of the things that you need for an enterprise application. So the identity and access management, all of those things. And then we have the applications then that reside on top of that. And you can connect the solution to all of your existing SIM tools, your EDR, all of your cloud repositories, and again, all with leaving your data where it is. So at this point, I'd kind of like to do kind of a hybrid whiteboard scenario to go through kind of a functional use case for Cloud Pak for Security. And it really kind of starts with a little bit of history, right? So as the information security industry was being developed, we had firewalls and we had antivirus, right? This is back in the days when we called it, a castle and a moat. You had a defined perimeter in your environment. I like to call it the good old days in some respect. And that worked for a while. But then we added additional, as the threat landscape changed, we added additional tools. So intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, cloud access security brokers, lots of other tools. Then we added vulnerability management. And again, talking about silos, this was a very highly siloed environment because each of these tools was managed by a different person and had its own little repository of data. So the next step that the industry took was the development of SIMs, so security information and event management. So in IBM's case, we have the market leading SIM of QRadar. There are lots of other SIMs out there. There's Splunk, there's ArcSight, there's more and more SIMs out there. And the idea was, well, we can send all of our security related data up to this SIM. Then we'll have a central repository, and we can also do really nice things like correlations. So if we get an alert on our intrusion detection system for a particular CVE, we can then correlate that with our vulnerability management system and understand, am I really affected or should I be worried about that? So really nice things like that. This was also when the modern SOC or Security Operations Center was somewhat developed, and SIM was kind of the backbone tool for that. As the industry progressed, and again, as I had mentioned before, we create more solutions, right? We find out that antivirus is not really working anymore. AV is dead. So along come solutions like endpoint detection and response. And an endpoint detection and response solution creates huge amounts of data, lots of telemetry data. So it's looking at every process that's happening on a machine. So that's a huge amount of data. And organizations then typically don't send all of that to their SIM. They only send their alert data. So why is that? There's really two main reasons. The first is anytime you move data or anytime you house data, it costs you money, right? The second is that these SIMs historically have been a consumption-based price model. So for instance, QRadar was based on events per second, flows per minute. Splunk was based on volume. We have recently changed that. If any of your QRadar customers, you know that we do offer an MVS licensing now, which is an unlimited license model for SIM. But regardless, that's why companies were reticent to send all of that data to their SIM. As we progressed further, we find organizations that may have multiple SIMs, either through a merger and acquisition or potentially just normal business separations. We find operational data stores that may not be brought into a SIM. And you may think, well, that makes sense. Why do I need my ops data in the SIM? Well, think of a situation like this, where let's say you're on a server and the antivirus says it stopped a particular virus. But then 5 minutes later, you see that that server, its CPU spiked to 100% and stayed that way for 20 minutes. That can be very relevant to that security investigation. You also have organizations with data lakes, sometimes a security focused data lake, or sometimes just an overall data lake, which, as we all know, oftentimes turns into a data swamp because They're stuffing data in there, not really getting any value out of it. Then we have the clouds, the public clouds. We have AWS, we have IBM, we have Azure. And one thing about these cloud providers is once they get you as a customer, they don't want to let you go, right? So they charge egress fees to get your data out of there, and they don't make it very easy to move between clouds. So they also like selling more tools. So for instance, AWS, they started out with Guard Duty, then they came out with CloudWatch, and then CloudTrail, all the security pieces that run on AWS. IBM, we have our own cloud security service. Then Azure, has maybe Sentinel, for instance. All of these things combined lead to what we call a visibility gap, or the SIM gap. Situations where you have data in these silos and in these repositories that could be very relevant to a security investigation, but they aren't being ingested into your SIM. So that's why we developed the first application that we released on Cloud Pak for Security called Data Explorer. And Data Explorer is what we call a federated search capability. It utilizes something that IBM developed called Stix Shifter that we then released to the open source community. But the way it works is an analyst can enter one query, and that query then is translated to the language of all of these connected data sources. So first, this analyst doesn't need to know, let's say AQL for QRadar or SPL for Splunk. He doesn't need to know how to call the API of your EDR system. All he needs to know is he enters a query in one spot and it's translated, and all of these connected devices are searched, and then the results are returned. This is also an approach where we're leaving that data where it is. We're only returning the metadata. So this gives you the visibility across all of these silos. We then kept proceeding and we came out with more applications for Cloud Pak for Security. So Data Explorer, we'll call that DE now. Then we came out with Threat Intelligence Insights, and that's where we can ingest all of the great information from IBM X-Force in terms of indicators of compromise, tactics, techniques, and procedures, all of the threat information that's out there. And then we also developed our SOAR platform. You may have heard of Resilient, which is our security orchestration, automation, and response platform. We've taken that and containerized it and used microservices, and now we're delivering that on this Cloud Pak for Security platform. And the nice thing is that all of these systems, all of these applications work together. So for instance, as an indicator comes down through IBM X-Force into TII, and oh, by the way, X-Force typically has about 10,000 indicators every day. As that is ingested into Threat Intelligence Insights, you can automatically send it to Data Explorer and search your entire environment. And oh, by the way, if we find one of those indicators, we can send it over to our SOAR component and create a case. And then once that case is created, we can use the literally hundreds of integrations that we have to do things like query your SIM for additional contextual information. Who has this indicator? Who else has talked to the device that has this indicator? Those sorts of things. You can also take actions like automatically set a block in your firewall, or automatically quarantine someone off the network through your NAC system or through your EDR system. We also integrate tightly with Ansible. And so from that perspective, you literally have thousands of other integrations. So as you can see, from the visibility through the detection and then the response, all in one unified platform here. So why is that important? Well, you can run anywhere, right? It's on that OpenShift hybrid cloud native platform. You save money by leaving your data in place. You have visibility across all of these silos. It's a common platform for security with all of IBM's tools that is being moved over to there, and we'll also be releasing third-party applications and tools as well as all of our integrations. You can also save your organization money with the orchestration and automation capabilities. We're releasing more apps. In fact, we've already released our UBA app. So for our customers that have QRadar, you can use one interface, the Cloud Pak for Security interface, and see the UBA data and surface all of your QRadar dashboards. It's also open. IBM is very committed to open standards and open source. As I mentioned, the Stix Shifter, we released that to the open source community. So anyone can use that and write their own connectors. You can see some of the other open technologies that we're using. We're also members of the Open Cybersecurity Alliance and OASIS and lots of other open standards bodies. So you get complete data insights across this hybrid multi-cloud environment. You can streamline your operations with orchestration and automation, and importantly, you can leave your data where it resides. So that's was kind of a quick functional use case. Again, as you've seen, it can cover you from visibility through detection, investigation, and response using the existing applications. So we also have a dashboarding capability, again, where you can see your QRadar dashboards and all of those things. Let me check how I'm doing for time here. Okay, we're doing pretty good. So as we progress here, I'd mentioned that we do have other applications. I discussed a little bit about Data Explorer, which is again that federated search. It utilizes something called STIX, which is an open standard. You may have heard it in the context of STIX and Taxi, but it's the open query language that we're using. Again, all the orchestration, the automation, and response with SOAR. And each of these are licensed individually, right? So if you only want Data Explorer, that's all you have to buy. If you don't want the SOAR capability, we do give you a cases application just with the platform as well. As I had mentioned, we released the UBA, we released the Threat Intelligence Insights. We have two other applications that are currently in beta. One is called Risk Manager, which gives you this overall comprehensive view of the risk in your organization in a business consumable format through dashboards and other mechanisms. We're aligning that to the FAIR model, if you're familiar with that, which is an industry standard for risk management. And we're also introducing Threat Investigator. And this is very exciting because even our QRadar customers for some time have been able to take advantage of what we call QRadar Advisor with Watson. And this is where we can really help your tier 1, tier 2 analysts with doing the grunt work of the investigation for them, right? So looking for indicators, looking for threat campaigns, all of those sorts of things. And now through CloudPak, we'll also be able to offer that to customers that may have a competitive SIM like Splunk or other things. So that's very exciting. That also aligns everything very nicely to the MITRE framework, so the MITRE attack framework. Again, I'd mentioned the Threat Investigator, and it is currently in beta, and this is where, again, we're delivering that Watson for cybersecurity capability. It does the automatic case investigation for you. It gives you a timeline view of the attack, which is very nice. It's maybe difficult to see in this graphic here, but what this is showing us is when it came into our organization, the device it was on, what it did on that device mapped to MITRE, and then it lateral movement. So it's tracking lateral movement to another machine and then to another machine. So you get a very nice visual representation of everything the threat actor has been doing inside your environment, again, all mapped to the MITRE attack chain classifications. Another thing that we have just released is what's called our Playbook Designer, and it's a very nice graphical way of creating workflows or run books, if you will. So your orchestration and your automation response, very nice and very easy to use. Another thing that we just announced, I believe last week at RSA, I had mentioned that Data Explorer and that federated search using STIX Shifter. We're augmenting that to be an entire threat hunting language. And we're also open sourcing this. We call it Kestrel. So that's very, very exciting. And another announcement from last week at RSA is that historically we've delivered CloudPak through security either in an on-prem fashion, or certainly you could run it on any public cloud. We are releasing, and this goes for general availability, I believe on June 23rd, a SaaS-based version of CloudPak for security. So for those customers that prefer SaaS solutions, you'll now be able to do that with CloudPak for security. This is all unifying the analyst workflow. So we had some third parties that looked at the amount of effort it takes for a security investigation. And what we found was that as you go through this process, right, of what happens after an incident, just this, cycle takes about 90 minutes of a person's time. utilizing Cloud Pak for security, the capability for one platform to handle detection through remediation, and the orchestration and automations, you can trim that 85 minutes down to literally 1 minute. And again, that's validated by some third parties as well. Kind of to wrap up, again, IBM is very open to partnership and very open to open communities and open practices and open source. We literally have thousands of integrations. For our QRadar customers, 500 plus integrations in QRadar, Resilient, I think upwards of 300 integrations with our SOAR platform now. So literally, thousands of open integrations. And what we're looking for is for, as we progress with Cloud Pak for security, we're positioning this as finally the kind of nirvana of a single pane of glass. And maybe we can get to that eventually. So that was it. Thank you very much. And Anand, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jerry. That's what really enlightening. I mean, because we got to know a few more technologies that you're adding up to the arsenal, right? So the armory of whole pack here, because I saw Risk Manager as a very nice addition. Threat Investigator is a nice addition. That Text Shifter is a revelation because it would help you go through integration with any data explorer layer, right? So that's a good thing. And I think all the other announcements that have happened in the RSA, I think that would bring a lot of focus towards the IBM overall portfolio, right? So quick question, Jerry. So IBM, definitely the solutions are helping improve the security return on investment for the customers who are on the IBM platform. But what are the parameters which you feel helps the leaders to measure these improvements? How do they measure that?
Well, we're baking analytics into everything we do. And we give you feedback within the tools of everything you do. So even when, let's say, for instance, you're going through your normal SOC processes and through investigation and you're going through your runbooks and your playbooks, we're providing real-time feedback and AI-based learning that helps you quantify the change in time and the savings in time that an organization is getting over time, right? So we're helping you quantify that in real time through the actual products.
Sure. That helps. Thanks, Jerry, for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with that, I think it's time to for us to move to the next panel members on the call here. So I would request Mr. Ryan Parthasarathy, Sales Head for Cybersecurity for Americas, and along with him, Affan Syed to also take the stage. Affan is, like I mentioned, the market maker lead for us for GE and oil and gas and other verticals. Welcome again, Affan and Ryan.
Thank you.
So before,
Thank you, Anand. Go ahead.
Thanks, Ryan. So before we start, I would like to give a quick understanding of the overall relationship that we have with IBM. So IBM is a very strategic partner for us, right? It's a 360-degree partnership with IBM where we are doing a lot of different solution towers we're catering to beyond security also. Like you see, we are working on the IBM security portfolio. We're looking at the Red Hat. We're looking power systems. We're looking at IBM Watson in the data analytics side of it. So there's a lot of 360-degree work where our engineering teams are working jointly with the engineering teams of IBM, where we are creating IPs and solutions together, which kind of caters to a specific need of the customer, any specific pain point, any specific industry issues, and we're catering to that. And also, we're taking very, very big bets with from an IBM standpoint, where we are focusing on the 5G networks as, for example, because the 5G is a big thing which is coming towards all of us, right? With all the microservices and everything would be delivered from a 5G open network. So we are working very closely with IBM on those solutions. On the services side of it, we are looking at the whole plethora of services from an overall IT standpoint. You see infrastructure and cloud are getting covered. We are looking at integrated engineering. We're looking at networks, AI, ML, security, definitely something which is a very, very big focus area for us. So we are adding more and more people and looking at an overall 360 degree, like I mentioned partnership where we are working with IBM shoulder to shoulder, strength to strength, to kind of develop new products and solutions. So it's a very important relationship, and in that step, we are working very aggressively towards the industry products and solutions, which would be very soon coming into the GTM with IBM together in the market. Moving ahead, I would request Ryan to give our understanding of his views at how we are working with IBM specifically from a security standpoint. So Ryan and Affan, if you can take the stage, please.
Sure. Thank you, Anand and Jerry. Fabulous whiteboarding of simplifying how your unified approach is falling in place. Great work and great additions happening. And the modular design that you have proposed in your ecosystem is absolutely welcome, and as well as it's much easier from a integration to existing tooling or tools and platforms that an existing customer may have. So that modular approach is the key message. The unified ecosystem that's coming together with integrated data and threat intelligence and everything falling together makes it very compelling. Thank you, Jerry, for that.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right. So I think how do we take this to the market, folks? If you look at it from our TechM cybersecurity offerings, and how do we overlay and map this so that when you're having conversations with customers, how do you bring in the IBM story? How do you bring in the IBM benefits into the equation? So as you know, as you all might have seen, different forms of the 6 pillars that we look at from sales and go-to-market standpoint, and identity access plays a super critical role. And application security along with cloud, any cloud roadmap that you do, whether you cannot talk just on cloud security or cloud native security alone, because there may be a hybrid environment falling in place. The application DevOps and DevSecOps will have to be carried together in those conversations. That also brings you into predictive advanced threat management. How do you monitor this? It's just not the eyes on glass alone, but how do you marry the intelligence to this eyes on glass so that you can do a predictive analysis and predictive detection and response to the same, so that you don't wait until an incident happens, but you are much more prepared with data and intelligence so that you can counter it before a real incident happens. Particularly, this is very important, and IBM facilitates, each of its product facilitates this kind of a monitoring and management of it. Of course, Jerry mentioned the GDPR and the compliance requirements and assurance that comes along with this, so that every roadmap, every migration, as a CISO who is sitting and listening to various products, and Jerry mentioned there is a plethora of products in security, you always worry about, hey, how do I ensure the compliance side of it? How do I make sure that my compliance and requirements of assurance on the compliance side falls in place? So that also we will talk a little bit about it. We've been in business for quite a while. We got about 1,200 dedicated associates. I will tell you how we are making investments into this particular practice to align to the IBM's portfolio of offerings that they have done. Next slide, please. So these are some of the service catalog view that we created, right? Jerry touched a little bit on identity access management, SOC as a service that we offer today, the foundational cert services, managed network, and all those services. I'll leave this for your consumption. The critical point for you is that apart from the 6 towers that you see on the top, we do some zero trust design and zero trust network, which does come into play. There are other tools that Jerry probably didn't bring into the topics. Please do visit the website. There is a Mass 360 with Watson that allows you on the endpoint detection side of things, on the mobile management of it. There is Trusteer that will give you an element of consumer protection and identity and user access. So those are the elements that you need to look at to read up on that. And of course, we do have our own AI and tactics platforms that we use on microsegmentation, which aligns beautifully with what IBM's already doing. So you don't need to double sell this. You don't need to tell a customer to integrate with multiple tools. If there are existing tools, our solution architects can help you leverage the existing tools and then somehow marry it, because that's where the modular design of IBM comes. You don't need to buy everything from one shop. If you already have an existing investment, protect that investment, because Jerry's unified approach and the API connects with either be an Ansible or a Chef or a Puppet or anything else that they have, would help you integrate into the existing investments that a client has already made. So please do read up on that and take approach from that. But otherwise, these are some of our services. I don't want to go through each one of them, but there is sufficient compliance requirements that we touch upon. We do good amount of SOC as a service and advanced threat intelligence and advanced monitoring and management. We have 30 plus engagements where we would like to definitely look at today, as we want to look and see where IBM fits in from a portfolio. And then there's a go-to-market approach for about 45 plus targeted accounts that we have already seen, where we have a good marriage of the portfolios. Next slide, please. Affan, you want to touch base a little bit here? I will let you. But from a SOC perspective, what TechM brings to IBM is from a delivery and operational standpoint. We come and provide you with existing enriched runbooks. We're managing today billions of EPSs, which is available. A good amount of talent that we are making it ready. I'll let Affan chime in here from a couple of statements so that you can at least see what he sees from his market standpoint, as well as what he can leverage from the SOC capability with IBM.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you everybody else for joining the call today. So I'm going to keep it pretty simple and pretty direct. Being a former CISO back in in my previous job, the three things that I looked into basically while acquiring a solution or getting my SecOps up and running was simplification of the tool, the scalability of the tool, and then what does it basically do to sell apart from other clients, right? And James, you guys have successfully covered the details around how scalable IBM has been in this whole realm of different tools that are there in the market, and along with the other solutions that are coming into CP4S. We at TechM in the past 1 year have realized that aligning with a partner like TechM and actually working on even an org SOC to make sure that it ramps up to the right specs, and then taking it to the client, that's been a very good decision on our end. Basically, when you actually talk about a next-gen SOC or advanced SOC, you're looking into three primary things, right? You want to make sure you have the right platform that you're basically running, and no better thing to have running it for yourself within Tech Mahindra. We're doing it over here. You want to make sure you have the right processes in place, either from like right out of the box, or you're making it with your personnel. And then lastly, your personnel, the right type of people, the right competent team that would be there, mission ready on day one, to do that work for you, to make sure that the platform's up and running, to make sure that they have the right boards and IR processes set up to deal with an incident, to look for the right threats using that tool, and then maybe it's be able to share that information across the different verticals. So we have had the fortunate of working with IBM, like I said, in the past 1 year, and we have successfully managed to set up use cases that I'll be talking about in the upcoming slides on the different solutions and different aspects of CP4S, be it a QRadar solution, be it the resilient source solution, be it anything to do with GDPR readiness or CMMC readiness these days. When it comes down to like data classification, we made some good strides, and we are doing go-to-market campaigns in the next month or two. We'll be scaling on more on that in developing our capabilities. And like I said, pretty exciting times, and we're moving forward and making good progress when it really comes down to advancing your SOC, and when it really comes down to doing your solutioning for other aspects of security. So going on to the next slide, be talking about the different mapping that we have done of solutions, products that IBM has to our towers. So as was mentioned earlier, GDPR and CMMC and other guidelines that are coming in to do an ongoing data security assessment. We work very closely with IBM Guardian and their use cases for data protection, data encryption. When it comes down to IDAM, we have seen a big surge in the identity governance solution called SIGI with IBM that we've been trying to roll out at some of our clients. There is a new PAM solution in the market now that IBM has released that we're working with that goes toe to toe with CyberArk and other solutions called as a secret server. That's been going on. And if you, once again, need any more details when it comes down to these solutions, we'll be more than happy to talk to you on that. When it comes down to cloud security, as we mentioned earlier, QRoC is one area where we have made good strides and have some good collateral to talk about. And then when it comes down to advanced threat management, as I was mentioning earlier, the SOC setup that we have within TechM and the use cases that we have around managing your security operations and security monitoring and even incident handling, we've made some good strides here with the right set of personnel and the right set of tools that we'd be more than happy to talk about. Going on to the next slide. Once again, some of the tools that I was mentioning earlier that are currently going on, CP4S, as Ryan mentioned earlier, is your single pane of glass for your security monitoring landscape to scale up, to watch into different things that are going on. When it pairs up with QRadar and the resilient SOAR system, it actually gives you an end-to-end view of how, what is the security posture of your market. And coupled with everything that's coming in from IBM, from the threat intelligence perspective, I think this is going to be a pretty, this is probably going to give us Splunk and other contenders a good run for the money here. Going down to data privacy and protection, like I said, there's been a big emphasis over the years to, do data lifecycle security assessments, where you need to classify your data, you need to basically encrypt your data, and Guardium has been pretty resilient in the past year or two and has given us a lot of traction in the data protection space. As I mentioned earlier, digital identity, SIGI and ISIM and Trusteer are some solutions that I'm seeing a big surge on. Advanced for Trusteer, if you're doing fraud protection, especially when it comes down to the capital banks, that makes a big difference there as well. And having, I would say, customized out of the box use cases that you can deploy and easy run and enable. So I'll leave it at that. Going on to the next slide, I'm going to have Ryan talk about some of the marketing campaigns that we're doing to do the enablement of the CP4S that we would want to take to our clients. So Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Affan. I think I mentioned earlier from a talent standpoint what we are doing. We've already identified 200 plus resources today and that are getting trained and certified in IBM products, particularly to the CP4S elements of it. And each of these are aligned to the towers and solution competencies that we are developing. We have built this year, 2021, we made some significant investments in building in the ESRM practice itself, key competency layers under the solution head, Somak Roy. So those who haven't worked with him, please do reach out. We have significant investments that have gone in from a competency build out. The other piece is we have also created 15 plus use cases already. Given this portfolio of offerings that IBM has, we already have 15 plus use cases. So when you see these things, we can publish this to you. You will see the ESRM communications coming out, but please do read them and map it back to your client requirements because it's important that you understand. If you don't understand, please do call us. By all means, call Affan, myself, or anybody will be happy to walk you through in a session and then prior to going to your customer. Do that, please. We talked about the 360. Anand was pretty significantly gung-ho about it. We do have a 350 million plus business that we do with IBM today. It's significant partnership. The other important point I want to mention is don't look at it purely from a cybersecurity stakeholder or a cybersecurity based selling. Look, if you're into your ITSM part of it, you're going into your data center to a cloud alignment. Please do bring in the elements of security. You're not going to fail if you talk security. You can never fail in any pitch to a client if you're starting your pitch with security. I can tell you whether it's infra modernization, application modernization, or a cloud roadmap development, bring in security, and absolutely every client is going to sit and listen to you. That's how important security is today. We're also investing in a center of excellence for IBM solution in India. And of course, from a marketing standpoint, you will start seeing to our 1,000 plus client base that we already have. We want to pitch in IBM wherever, of course, mapping to IBM product base that they have. We've already identified 45 plus existing clients to out of the gate type of a market campaign. The CP4 upgrade, Jerry mentioned about resilient and SOAR integration and with existing tool or IBM's SOAR platform itself, we would be doing some upgrades to CP4 campaigns, and you'll start seeing some notes from Garima coming out as part and parcel of our marketing efforts. If you need a special effort on your particular cluster of accounts, or if you want to have a brown bag lunch sessions, Jerry, myself, or and our solutioning team will be very happy to support you, both from a technical sales standpoint and representation standpoint. I think that's what I had overall. Please do reach out. I mean, don't feel shy. IBM's modular design has opened up, and I think you will have an easier time in positioning and posturing these conversations.
Thank you so much, Ryan and Affan, for taking us through the value proposition that Tech Mahindra has with our strategic partner IBM here. That was very helpful for the audience and for all of us to understand the length and breadth of work that we are trying to do together and how we are trying to make difference for our customers, right? Thank you again, Jerry, for your session where you definitely, like Ryan mentioned, that whiteboarding was very, very helpful. I think the audience would have loved that understanding of how the security has developed over the years, right? From generation 1 to now generation 6, right? And you kind of showed that generation 1 to generation 6 movement with all the building blocks of security. That was a very, very enlightening specific slide there. Thank you again, Jerry. And with that, we are opening our Q&A session. So I would request the audience to place their questions in the Q&A window, and we'll start taking them. We already have a few questions which have come in. Let me move on to the first question. This is from Balaji Venkatraman. So Balaji wants to know about how CP4S can adopt the cloud-native solutions of AWS, Azure, and others, provide synergized cyber threat defense like AWS Cloud, AWS Guard Duty, Azure Security Center, or Google SCC. Maybe this can be taken by Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have support for Google Cloud currently. It is on our roadmap and is coming soon. We do currently integrate with Azure and with Sentinel. And then from an AWS perspective, we have a connector to something called AWS Athena, which then gives us the capability to query S3 buckets, get access to Guard Duty and Cloud Trail. Then we also have an integration with CloudWatch. So we have integrations with all of the major cloud providers. And again, we released that 6 shifter as open source. So a lot of the other cloud providers, Alibaba and some others, are actually working on their own integrations with our platform. And customers can also utilize the shifter themselves and contribute to the community and create other integrations if you'd like.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Jerry. I hope this answers your question, Balaji. And also to add to that, I think, like you mentioned, 6 shifter is a good option there to do the integration. And then you also talked about OpenDXL, right? Data exchange layer. So I think OpenDXL would help in integration with all other native solutions on the cloud, as well as the third-party products coming in through the data exchange layer being an open source again. So thanks for that. Let's move to the next question here. So obviously, people would like to understand, looking at the wide variety of solutions that IBM has been adding to the armory of CP4S, right? And we saw that slide where you talked about new features being added, risk management and manager, and then investigation solution, all that being added. So the question is, who would be the closest competitor to IBM CP4S? Is there any?
You know, that's a good question. And really, there isn't a single competitor that I know of that has the entire, soup to nuts, the gamut there, that runs on a hybrid multi-cloud platform with all of the different capabilities. That's not to say, though, that there aren't, specific competitors for specific aspects. So, for instance, the SOAR component, someone like a Demisto or a Splunk Phantom would be a competitor there. In all of these situations, though, we're typically rated very well from an analyst perspective. I would say maybe the closest competitor might be Palo Alto at this point with kind of their XDR solution. And we're actually, migrating towards two of the latest architectures, right? So which is XDR and also which is Zero Trust. So Cloud Pak for Security is going to be central to both of those solutions that you'll see coming from IBM.
Sure. Thanks for that, Jerry. The next question is about the integration of the threat intelligence platform with IBM CP4S. Is that integratable? I think you answered that, but
It is, yes. We have a bring your own license approach. So if you're using a third-party provider, like let's say VirusTotal, for instance, you can enter your credentials and also be able to ingest the data from VirusTotal. So it is open from that sense. And in fact, um, what we're looking to do with TII over time is become the analytics engine. We certainly believe in the X-Force threat intelligence data, and we believe in its efficacy and accuracy and few false positives, but we also understand there are lots of other threat intelligence companies out there. So we're going to support the addition of all of those third-party feeds, but we want to be able to provide the analytics on top of that so that you can begin to understand which of your threat intelligence providers are actually more efficacious for your environment.
sure. I think the next question is for Ryan and Affan. You can take it. This is more like being a global GSI, Global System Integrator. Tech Mahindra would be taking care of customers' journey towards multi-cloud, right, and multi-facility environment. So what do you think would be the best practices that the customer should kind of adopt while they're in the journey towards multi-cloud?
So the multi-cloud, if you are looking from a cloud roadmap development or a cloud modernization development, you are going to take an application-centric approach. So the infrastructure elements will automatically come through for you. Your apps and data are super critical for you because that's what basically the business operates on. So from that standpoint, there is no given set of a straight formula for you to basically say that this is the best practice or this is the best approach. But take an application-centric approach, look at your data, look at your integrity of your data or your authenticity of your data, because what we have done in the last few migrations that I have seen, particularly on the infrastructure modernization projects, that the CMDB is not accurate, your application to infrastructure mappings are not accurate, which means if your basic elements are not accurate, your security definitely is lacking because you just don't know where your data resides or who's using it. Even if the authorized person is using it, touching the crown jewels and privileged access data, is he using it for the right purpose? Is there an insider threat? Is there an insider data leak? Those are some of the elements that a CIO or a CISO will be sitting and thinking when a cloud roadmap is getting developed. So to answer your question, yes, there is start from an application and data perspective. You will be a lot more successful in your cloud roadmap development.
Correct. And to append to what Ryan was saying, right? I mean, once again, if you were to bring in IBM here, right, or the likes of big data and the big IDM, sorry, you would basically do a scanning, a classification of your assets, right? That's why having the right CMDB, like Ryan was mentioning earlier, is key. But if not, having the right, knowing where your data resides and follow the data should be the mantra for basically moving your applications or anything else that you're moving to the cloud transformation is key. So in this case, for example, IBM Guardium can potentially help you catalog, look into what data you have in the environment, and then basically using that classification from Guardium and your own processes, you can basically start migrating the applications as needed, using obviously a risk limit approach. So I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Affan. And just to add to it, probably the migration or the adoption of cloud or the multi-cloud or the cloud security per se cannot be an afterthought. It has to be something which you start from day one, right? And you build over it. It's a journey which cannot be just done in one single day when you are already a mature organization. You have done your investments in a large security framework or a platform, and then you suddenly think about how do I get myself secure on a cloud. You can't do that in one day, right? It has to be gradually thought out. So thanks for sharing your thoughts, Ryan and Affan. Let's move to the next question. So Today, many of the attacks are more identity centric, right? So from an internet or from an internal threat based or solutions like UEBA and expanded to become SIEM plus SOAR solutions has created interest for security of C levels. So how do you think IBM would combat the market competition there? Should I read out the question again? Jerry, you want to take it? So
Yeah,
the question is from Balaji. He says, too many of the attacks are more identity centric from the internet or internal threat based, and solutions which are UEBA and expanded to become SIEM plus SOAR solutions has created interest for security of C levels. How IBM combat that market competition?
well, really, there's a lot of different ways, right? And unfortunately, there are multiple products involved. So from the identity and access management perspective, you think of something like IBM Verify or other third parties. But also you need web content filtering capabilities. You need that UABA for, machine learning and analytics on the endpoints because, for the unknown threats. So there isn't a single product, and it takes orchestration across multiple products. So that's kind of why we feel that the platform approach, where we're bringing in all of the data from your SIM as well as all of the data that's not in your SIM, that's giving you the context that you need across your estate to understand when those C-level executives are being targeted, as well as anyone else in your organization, so that single point approach of visibility and being able to take that visibility and detection all the way through the orchestration and automation and response, we feel is very important and assists in that effort.
Sure. I hope that answers your question, Balaji. Okay, let's move to the next question. What are the various deployment models for IBM CP4S?
It can be deployed on-prem, certainly. Can be deployed in, let's say, a VMware environment or on bare metal. Can be deployed in any public cloud. In fact, on IBM Cloud Marketplace, it's very easy to install. It's essentially a one-click install. We also have an AWS Quick Start Guide. Will soon also be on the AWS Marketplace. So since it's that cloud native architecture on OpenShift, essentially you can run it anywhere. And in addition to that, you can again gain that elasticity, so you can utilize hybrid clouds and multi-cloud environments at the same time.
Sure. Right. The next question is from my side. I couldn't stop myself from asking this, Jerry. So there are multiple solutions that we saw under the plethora. I mean, the whole proposition of CP4S, right? We looked at Data Explorer, we looked at SOAR, we looked at user behavior analytics, we looked at threat intelligence, right? So what do you think would be the hero motion? I think the one which our guys should go and kind of start the conversation with. Which one of these use cases should be the primary or the winning motion that we should be talking about?
Wow, that's really difficult to answer, Anand. Simply because I think the applications working together, it is a scenario where 2 + 2 = 5, right? So the sum is better than the parts. But I think the most innovative is probably the Data Explorer capability, because it enables threat hunting, and it enables that overall view of visibility, regardless of where the data is siloed in an environment or in a cloud.
Absolutely, Jerry. I am seconding that because, yes, I was also voting for that Data Explorer, because definitely it's a very powerful solution, because data is exploding, right, every day, and it's doubling every few years. So if every customer has to bring all of their data in one place to start actually running analytics on that, that would never happen. I mean, the customers would go berserk, right? What you need is a solution like this, where the data is spread out. You don't need to think where the data is. At the end of the day, you need a solution which would just go and fetch that data, right? Bring that in, that intelligence in, and then serve that to you on a platter, right? And then that's a very, very strong proposition.
Exactly. Focus on the outcome and not the journey to get there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thanks for that. I think that brings us to the close of the session. I think that was very, very engaging. Thanks again for your participation, Jerry, Affan, Ryan. I love the discussion today. I think there's few more points which I got to know about the IBM portfolio thanks to your presentation, Jerry. And I was really looking forward to hear Ryan and Affan talk about how we are kind of taking this good value proposition out to the market. So we heard that point of view also today. So thanks again, the panelists, for being part of this, and a very, very big thanks to our audience also for being part of this session. And I'm sure you're going back with some good pointers, good takeaways from a learning standpoint, which you would apply to your use cases and your customer environments. And for any questions, please do reach out to us. Reach out to us at esrm.communications@techmahindra.com. We'll be very happy to take any more questions and also help you in your journey towards IBM Cloud Pak for security and other products. Thank you so much. Thanks again. Stay safe. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thanks, team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.